Hello, welcome to another Richard Chang's Leicester Square Theatre podcast with me, Richard Chang, and my guest, Danielle Ward. Hey, I'm on tour at the moment. It'd be lovely if you enjoy these podcasts to come and see me. This is the way I try to make a living, is by performing live. This week, if you're watching it the week it goes out, I will be performing in Cheddar in Somerset, Bath in Somerset, probably Avon actually, and a festival in Torquay in Devon, I think. I should know more about the West Country than I do. Please come and see it if you can, or go to richchang.com/gigs and you'll see where I'm coming in the future. I might be coming near to you, and it'd be lovely to see you at the gigs if you want to come. Also, you can become a dripster at d.rip/Richard-Herring and help us make more podcasts, or a badger at richardherring.com/badger. Something funny, George?
No, nothing.
Good. None of this is funny. And if you want to help us make some money for the podcast and get drunk for free, then why not go to beer52.com/Rahulastapa. Just Rahulastapa, just once. Then you can sign up for this. You'll get sent 8 amazing beers, like this Dipper beer. That's like so cloudy. My goodness, I wonder what that tastes like. They're craft beers. They're not for the uninitiated, but they will get you there. Just like any beer. And George has never found me as funny as he does today. You will get to sign up for a monthly thing. You can unsign at any time, even before it starts. But if you want to carry on, it's £24 a month for 8 beers and a magazine and some nuts. The nuts are quite nice. So this is the last time we're going to mention them. So let's see how it does. Hope you enjoyed the beers if you got them. Everyone seems to like them, so, do that bulb thing. That's much better for me. We get loads of money for that. Anyway, let's sit back and relax and enjoy Richard Chang's Leicester Square Theatre podcast.
Sorry.
Worst sound man ever. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Leicester Square Theatre. Please welcome a man. He's not my cup of tea. It's Richard Herring. And alive. Hello. Welcome to Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast. But the other day I was talking to some of John Robbins and Ellis James' PCDs. Pretty cool lot of people, I think you will agree. And not sad idiots who like a pair of losers. And they call it realismus. I don't know if that's going to catch up. So I was very excited. I'd written a brilliant routine. I'd typed it up. It was on my phone. And then my phone literally just deleted it just as I was about to come on stage. I genuinely can't believe that. The attachment's gone. So I just have to do what I usually do and dick around. I don't know if you saw in the news, as we were recording this the week before, Cheddar Man is back in the news. Yeah, the worst superhero of all time. He was bitten by a radioactive piece of cheese, and his superpower is that he gets a bit sweaty if he isn't in a fridge. That's all I can remember from that brilliant routine I wrote. Having looked at it, the exciting thing is, you may know about Cheddar Man. They did DNA tests on this. There's a skeleton they found in Cheddar Caves in 1906, and it's 10,000 years old, and it's still the most famous person to ever come out of Cheddar. It's never had a BBC Two series, but still internationally known skeleton is still the most famous. About 20 years ago, they did a DNA test and discovered it was related to my history teacher, Mr. Target, who lives 100 yards from Cheddar Caves. So his family have moved that far in 10,000 years' time. But more excitingly, this time they've discovered, you may have seen it, that he probably was dark-skinned. He had blue eyes, dark skin. Though I have to say, looking at him, kind of slightly weird colouring, and I did sort of worry that he's like all the Cheddar residents in the 1980s on Halloween. Just there's a little cheeky glint in his eye and he's smiling. The blue eye staring from much too orange. So it's good to see that tradition lasted 10,000 years. Stop now, they wouldn't do that in Cheddar now. That would be inappropriate. Good. Shame I didn't have that to read out. It would have gone better. So let's... I wrote it so beautifully, I'll just find it and put that over the top. So it'll be fine. Anyway, my guest this week is probably best known. You're much better than last week's audience, by the way. Is probably best known as the programme associate on one episode of Harry Hill's TV Birth. He's not the only one. It's Danielle Ward, ladies and gentlemen! Come in. Sit down. You don't have to. I didn't do it to John and Ellis. I was just very happy to see you. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you very much.
Good. I'm very glad.
Well, these are very deep, aren't they?
I was a programme associate on Harry Hill's TV, but for one episode as well.
How did you manage it?
I didn't like it. It was too hard.
But how did you? Well, why did you get the job of programme associate?
Because I'm extremely funny, and they wanted me to be involved.
Can I tell you how I got that?
How did you get it?
I was sleeping with one of the writers, and on a Sunday morning, he made me watch Casualty, and I came up with one joke,
Okay.
and I got a credit.
Okay.
Just by...
Damn, if I'd known it was that easy.
I know. That's the only job I've ever slept my way to.
Wow.
I think it was matching jumper and scalp on Casualty. I think it was that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it. Good. So you've just had a baby, and I wouldn't usually talk about this. Quite recent though, and you've had a baby with a York City sporting comedian,
yeah.
and it isn't me. How did this happen?
Yeah, I had a baby 13 weeks ago.
That's crazy. What are you doing out?
I know, but then I went to the BBC Christmas party after 4 weeks.
Did you?
Yes, and that was fine.
Well, I think it's good to get out quickly. We went to Buckingham Palace. We weren't invited.
For
we just
approval.
Went there. We went, a month after our daughter was born. I'd been invited for some reason to a dinner party with Princess Anne at Buckingham Palace for a charity that I have nothing to do with.
Oh. It was a bit. I didn't know whether to bring it up. It was a bit different for us because our daughter has a heart condition. I don't know if you saw, and so she had to have open heart surgery at 5 days old.
Yeah.
So we were in intensive care for 3 weeks. So when we got home, we're like, we have to go out. I basically lived in. It was like a dirty hotel. Oh, no, that may sound really awful. Thank you, Great Ormond Street. It's lovely. It was really weird and dirty and like this grimy little accommodation opposite Great Ormond Street for 3 weeks. And so it was like any opportunity. I was so excited to be home with a baby that was well and out. I went a bit nuts.
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah, I went out all the time.
It's difficult. You're never in. Hey, you spent the first 3 weeks with them. What more do they want?
Exactly. And she was fine.
Yeah, that's good. She's fine. That's good to know. It's tough, though. That first 3 months especially are difficult, and then the next 18 years. So look out for that. They're all pretty bad. But they give you diseases. That's the problem. That's where I am
Have you
today.
got a disease?
I've got a disease. It's
from which, your daughter or your son?
Well, both of them. It's both dirty little pests. They pick up everything. It's probably my daughter. My daughter goes to nursery now, and that's nice.
Yeah, that's gross.
Gets her out of the house, but then she comes back with all the diseases from the other kids.
So what we
the other kids in the village who are all dirty, not like us.
So when we had our daughter at UCLH, which is just down the road, and what they do as practice is they give every baby that's born the BCG.
Yes.
Because of TB, which has been eradicated in most countries, but there's loads of it in Camden for some reason.
Right.
And they were saying, if your baby had been born like in another part of the country, we wouldn't have to give her this. But there's loads of TB in Camden. So if you're worried about getting a bug from nursery, from your posh, wherever you live now, it's a posh place, try living in Camden. They've got TB. So.
I'm going to try and live there, and that'll show you. It was having TB. The loads of comedy people got together because of TB. Who was it? The two writers who got together because they had TB. TB was the Simpson and Galton Simpson. You're correct. And also Robert Lindsay had TB. I saw it. He showed a picture of himself as a kid, thanking the NHS for saving his life.
Oh.
Just as by the by. So there you go. So TB's not all bad. That's what I've got to say. That TB, no Steptoe Son, I think. Is that right? Yeah, good. Does pretty well. And do you know Steptoe Son in 1970 got 20.5 million viewers? It was like and that wasn't even the top programme of the year.
What was the top programme?
I'll tell you what it was. It was Miss World. This is a tweet I saw today. Miss World, 1970 was the top, something like 30 million. Second was Apollo 13 splashing down. So Miss World got more than Apollo 13, the people being saved, their lives being saved as they splashed into the ocean.
It's been amazing.
What, Miss World?
Miss World.
It was great. It was great, just girls around, no problems. You could slap them on the arse and no one said a thing. It was brilliant. Oh, what do you mean? Sorry, the Apollo 13.
You know how we all got really bored of them Chilean miners? Yeah. Because it's on all the time. I mean, you got rolling news, like, oh, are they out yet? No.
Imagine getting 30 million. Isn't that incredible, though, that people got, like a comedy show got 20 million viewers?
Yeah, that's because...
So that that's half the country at that point probably were watching one television program. The viewing figures for this are similar. Eventually, after about 1 million years, we'll be there. If this stays up on YouTube, it probably will. So, Danielle, people might be aware of you from lots of different places, and they might not be aware of you
Probably
at all.
not at all, but yeah.
But you do lots of podcasts, which might be the in for a lot of people. And fantastic podcasts. Do the Right Thing is...
Do the Right Thing. Can you name any other podcasts I do?
You do the film one, the film Fandango.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, thank you. I do research. Your husband, boyfriend, you married?
No.
Disgusting. Has been nominated for an award, the Chortle Award for Best Internet Show. In which
he's up against you, isn't he?
He does a thing where he's parodying comedians interviewing other comedians.
Yeah.
Don't know where he gets his crazy ideas from. He supports York City, though, so I can say no bad thing about it.
But that isn't my podcast.
No, but I'm saying...
You might know me from my boyfriend's podcast.
I'm just saying I know some other podcasts. I'm just saying. There's Adam Buxton does one.
He does one, yeah.
In fact, Do the Right Thing is and it became a TV pilot.
Yes, a pilot that never got picked up.
But I think because it's my producer Ben Walker is also the producer of your.
He is, yes.
And I think it's a very good and well thought out, and you've done it for several years because I was on it about 6 or 7 years ago, so you've been doing it for a long time, and it's a really good teams of people. Michael Legg's on it. He's all right. He's disappointing, but Margaret's brilliant. You're brilliant, and it's the right people to do it, I think. And you've worked out how the format works, so it's kind of giving moral dilemmas, and people have to.
Well, actually, that's where it differs.
Oh, really?
Because I had a Radio 4 show called Dilemma, and that was moral dilemmas.
Yes, that was moral dilemmas,
and so legally, I've had to invent a different thing legally, so that different. Do the Right Thing is actually practical problems.
Yes, well, it is.
And it's legally, technically different. Because the BBC own 20% of Dilemma, whereas I own 80%. But Do the Right Thing, me and Ben, 50-50.
No, that's good. Well, it is different. I think you asked me about how do you get rid of someone who's got an erection. How do you get rid of it? I think
you wouldn't do that on Radio 4.
That's not a moral question.
That's not a moral dilemma.
That's just hit it with a pencil. That's the answer.
What did you say? Was that your answer?
Well, because I had a friend who worked in sexual health, and sometimes men would come to her with sexually transmitted diseases, and she was a pretty young woman.
Yeah.
And they would sometimes become, aroused
and she would...
by having their penises out, their diseased penises out in front of a woman. And weirdly, she wasn't that interested in these strange diseased penises, so she would find a way to get rid of them. She said hit it with a pencil was her advice.
She didn't hit it with a pencil herself?
No, she said hit it with a pencil.
But she didn't get it penciled out and...
She got a pencil out. She had a pencil already. She was making notes. VD. That's what he has got VD. Stop that, mister. And that's enough to put men off the shock.
Yeah. Does that work?
I don't know. I've never done it to anyone. And when I get an erection, I want it to stay. So I don't... I'm not... It's rare enough now. And if it's up there, I might use a pencil just to help support it a bit. In the early stages. I'm not bad. It's not bad for a 50-year-old. It's not bad. Takes a little, but get the engines running, haven't you, mate? Yeah, and once the engine's up and running, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Don't pretend you don't. But you did. I thought it was interesting because you took it to TV, and then Claudia Winkleman, who I love and think is great, was involved.
She was really good. Yeah.
But it's weird the way TV can't just go, well, you've done really well here with this thing, let's give it a crack, because it clearly works.
Well, We did a pilot of Do the Right Thing with Claudia Winkleman, who is the most famous woman on British television. Strictly Come Dancing gets the highest viewing figures of anything apart from Blue Planet, and we couldn't have got a whale or anything. So we had Claudia, and she was great, and she was really funny, and that we had a really great, I think we had Joe Lycett, Sarah Pascoe, Bridget Christie, Rich Day-Yardy, really great people on the show. And it was a good pilot, and there was like this chat about, they were like, oh, we don't think Claudia's right for it. Is there anybody, can you think of anybody else? Can we have a list of other potential people who could host it? And on the list was Samuel L. Jackson. Famously is very good on panel shows. Do you know, my favourite ever commissioning story is... there's a thing on Radio 4 called Chain Reaction, and it's where people interview other people. And my favourite ever commissioning story is my friend was the producer on it, and she went to someone at Radio 4 who was quite high up, and it was Lenny Henry who was on it. And they said, we think it'd be really great to get someone else to interview Lenny Henry who was black, basically. I mean, she didn't even use that term, but she said, someone who was like Lenny Henry. It'd be really great if we could get... And she got a list back of potential names to interview Lenny Henry. And this was maybe 8 years ago. Yeah. And on the list of people to interview Lenny Henry was Morgan Freeman, Whoopi Goldberg, and Richard Pryor. The dead Richard Pryor. I mean, that's why you've got to have a smile when dealing with these people.
That's why Samuel L. Jackson was on your list, because they left him off the first time.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a... Like, there were some really great people that we worked with at Channel 4, but...
I had a very good meeting with Channel 4 last week as well. So I got something commissioned, then new people took over, and it's... Well, judging by the way the meeting kind of got up and moved out the door before we'd really ended it.
Yeah.
and sort of ended in the corridor, me getting in a lift. Very weird. I don't think that show's going to get made by Channel 4, but we'll see. She did say we'd meet up next week, but it's next week now. So.
Have you thought about... You put Scarlett Moffat in it.
I'll do that. I'm going to change Noel Fielding, because he's not big enough on Channel 4, for Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
And Richard Pryor is going to be Ben Bailey-Smith.
He was very good in Superman 3. He'd be excellent.
He was.
Should
he was very good in Marlon Brando, from what I hear as well.
That's an amazing bit of tittle-tattle, isn't it?
Well, if true. I mean, I suppose it's tittle-tattle.
Quincy Jones said it was true.
Yeah.
Richard Pryor's wife said it was true.
Yeah, but Richard Pryor's daughter said it wasn't true, and we all tell our daughters if we've had gay sex with a living legend. I mean, I'd just feel awkward if I was Marlon Brando, you know, because you'd have to get butter out and everything, wouldn't you? Because it's a bit like that film I did, isn't it?
I don't think butter's a good lubricant.
I don't think it is.
No.
You know, Marlon Brando wasn't to know that. No, let's not go there. So, do your own. Let's see what else you have done. Yeah, well, I love your Edinburgh shows. You've done when I was looking, I've been a fan of yours, and I've seen most of your Edinburgh shows, I think, if not all of them, and. I was sort of like surprised by how many things you've done. You've done a lot of stuff.
No, I've done a lot of stuff for someone this unsuccessful.
I don't know, but it's better. I know I know you feel like that, and I know you feel like you've not been recognised as much as you should, which is true. But also, you've carried on and you've made all these amazing and ambitious projects. So a lot of people just do stand-up shows, and you've done stand-up-y shows or like one-woman shows, but you've done like big musicals, you've done small musicals, you've done you've done Karaoke Circus, which is like this incredible thing we get comedians in to come in with a band, and you have to rehearse these things. So you're doing these very ambitious projects, and they work and they keep going.
Yeah.
And so it's that's you can be proud of
futile.
that.
I do
not
futile
though. I know
art projects.
No, but if you're still here
with
and
no financial gain,
doesn't matter. If you're still in, you're still doing them. Then that's what matters. I think I think as you get older, I think you do realise that. I think most comedians go through this period of thinking, "Why is this amazing?" And they're amazing things you've done, and they have had some recognition. You've won some awards, and you've had lovely reviews. And
my musicals are in the British Library.
There you go.
Yeah.
My blogs are as well. So
well,
that's how weak that is. And so you've done. So Sister Psycho was one of the first things I saw you do, which was which was a kind of crazy musical
Very
about...
weird. A killer lesbian robotic nun.
Yep.
Who steals a baby, keeps it in a cupboard. Turns out the baby's Elton John. It was a lot of fun, and it was one of these. I always forgot that, for years, Martin White, he wrote the music. He'd say to me, "Do you remember when Benedict Cumberbatch gave us a standing ovation?" And I don't bits of information just drop out your head.
Yeah.
I was like, did he? I don't and apparently Benedict Cumberbatch's favourite ever Fringe show.
There you go.
Yeah, and he wasn't even famous then, so I didn't know. I didn't care.
I saw Benedict Cumberbatch in the toilet at Buckingham Palace.
Really?
Yeah.
When you went out after your...
Yeah, it was the same. I've only been to Buckingham Palace. I actually have been to Buckingham Palace twice, but Benedict Cumberbatch was only
I saw
there once.
Emma Bunton in a toilet once.
Did you?
And she was very thin.
Was she?
Yeah.
Was she just on a big poo? Like Benedict Cumberbatch, I went in the loo at Buckingham Palace, and he was standing there talking to someone. And he looked at me, and you kind of think, "Oh God, you're Benedict Cumberbatch," you know.
Did you think he was going to go, "Oh, it's Richard Herring"?
No, well, that's what I didn't even consider that, so I just didn't say anything and walked out. But you kind of go sometimes, and when you say something like that, Benedict Cumberbatch was coming to our Fringe shows.
Yeah.
You go, maybe Benedict Cumberbatch was going, "Oh, Richard Herring's rude, isn't he?" I mean, I really like his Fringe shows, and he came to the toilet, just looked away and looked embarrassed and walked out like I was nothing. But I was so overwhelmed that Benedict Cumberbatch, Victoria Wood was there. It was amazing.
In
Not
the
in the toilet.
toilet?
Not in the toilet. Michael Ball was there. Greg Davies was there.
I thought when you said you'd gone to Buckingham Palace, you'd gone as a day trip. But this sounds like
We
a
went
proper
to have
party.
dinner with Princess Anne. It was quite... It might not have happened. I was
Why
a month
did
after
she-
my daughter was born. You know what it's like. Anything could have... I don't know. I do lots of
Why
work
were
with...
you invited?
I do lots of work with Scope, and the guy who used to work for Scope now worked for motor neuron disease, and I think he was trying to make... Because I've raised loads of money for
okay.
Scope. I think he was trying to get me to go over to motor neuron disease, and to be honest, Scope have never got me taken to Buckingham Palace, so fuck them. I'm with the old MNDs now. That's my lot.
I actually got a...
Fuck the cerebral palsy lot. I'm with the motor neuron ones now. Because I had a nice cake.
Did it work? Is that what they do? Did charities wine and dine you?
I think they do, yeah, but I don't know why they did it to me. It was very nice. I was sitting next to Nick Knowles' now ex-wife.
That story starts so well in a toilet. Nick Knowles' ex-wife.
We were right at the other end of the table. It was
At the pleb end.
Well, it was weird. I
Practically
don't
in
know,
the kitchen.
I don't know if I can talk about this. We'll discuss this later, Ben, whether we can talk about this. We used to have some people who came to all of the gigs, and they haven't really come recently, but they were butlers. Remember the butlers who used to come?
Actual butlers,
they
or
were
that was their
butlers,
name?
and I just thought, well, there's someone posh in North London has a butler. They worked at Buckingham Palace, and they were working on that day that we were there. And I didn't know, and I was saying to Greg, I said, "Oh, it's incredible. We've got a couple of people who come and see the podcast who are butlers here. I wonder if they're around." And one of them was serving me food just as I said that, and I didn't recognise her because she did. She didn't. They look like that down there. Don't they? They don't like butlers, and they were a lovely couple of butlers.
Did they sneak you any extras in?
No, not really. No, they were nice though. They said they couldn't say it. They said afterwards they couldn't say it. They weren't allowed
They weren't
to
allowed
talk
to
to
chat.
me. Yeah. Hey, Rich, it's us from the podcast. We shat in your food. Princess Anne was very nice. Out of all of them, she's the best one, Princess Anne.
Yeah, she's the best one, isn't she?
Not Prince Anne. I could tell you some stories about Prince Andrew. Hi, Ben.
I'm sorry, Ben.
No, it's all right. Good, yeah. So, and also, there's Take a Break Tales, which was about like little stories that would have been in. Could have been in Take a
When
Break.
I wrote Take a Break Tales, so I took stories from Take a Break and turned them into little plays, and in my head, this was like a collection of Greek tragedies.
Yeah.
I was like some amazing, Greek writer who I can't remember the name of. 13-week-old baby.
Euripides.
Yeah, something like that. And I thought that's what it'd be like. And then everybody... Take a Break magazine gave me a mug. That's kind of the best thing that happened.
Yeah.
Though,
You won an award you won a Best Show award for that, didn't you?
no.
According to Wikipedia, you did.
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, if I did, then no one told me.
Have a time out.
I feel like I've missed out.
Yeah.
No, Time Out, that was for best newcomer for stand-up.
No, there was something else. There was something to Take a Break.
But yeah, no, I think it's because I find, I really like doing stand-up, but I get frustrated by the medium. I get frustrated by the idea that you can't go on a bit of a journey. Like, you can't... I think it's really hard to create a different world. I really like working on stage with other people, which obviously you can't do as stand-up.
Yeah.
And also, I find it a bit frustrating sometimes when you come out in front of an audience, not this audience, obviously, when you're doing a club gig as a stand-up or even a tour show, and you come out and you're immediately having to win them over. And when you do any piece of theatre, like, so I did a play at the Donmar, and the audience are so like, so what's going to happen? And they're so excited, and they've bought money to see this story. Whereas stand-up's so combative that the audience is like, well, come on then, impress us.
Yeah.
And I get really fed up with that sometimes, like the idea that I'm not allowed, you're not given that leeway to maybe do something a bit more interesting. You have to get out there and slam people down. And I remember once doing the Comedy Store, doing a 10-minute slot at the Comedy Store, and being told backstage that it's just crowd control. And I'm sure that, like, some stand-ups love that, but for me, that's not what I ever wanted to do.
No, but there's lots of... In fact, when I came back to stand-up, you were running an amazing club at the Betsy Trotswood
that was a good club,
upstairs,
wasn't
where you deliberately had kind of weird and wonderful and more
Andrew
characters.
Lawrence.
Andrew Lawrence was on
Andrew
scene.
Lawrence do it.
It's all your fault.
Who knew?
But so you can find... Well, you found your own way through that, though.
Yeah, but that's a very tiny room, and I think sometimes as a stand-up, there's this idea that you should be able to play any room, and I don't know. I like vacillate between the idea that if you're a great stand-up, you should be able to play any room, and actually, if you're a great stand-up, you know exactly what you do, and sometimes it will work, and sometimes it will fail, and I always have trouble deciding which one I think is true.
I don't think you should be able to play every room. I think a really great stand-up can't play every room because some rooms are unplayable or some rooms aren't about doing stand-up.
Yeah.
So, like you say, so those rooms and the guys who do those rooms are amazing because it is about just going, people are going to shout stuff and throw stuff and you've got to come back and win them round.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing thing to do. But that's not really it's not the stuff you're talking about. I'm not saying one's better than the other, except your stuff is better than what they're doing. But artistically speaking, but it's an impressive skill. But some people can do a variety of things, but I think it's jack of all trades rather than master of one particular one. You can do different things, and still be good at them. But I think to try and do every room, I think, is insane.
Yeah,
because like some rooms are just So like if you did Donald Trump's golf course,
probably wouldn't
like you very much, and you can't go, I'm not a good comedian because those guys.
Well, I don't know. See, I don't know because I stopped doing stand-up when I was pregnant because I could not cope with the overwhelming self-hatred I'd have if a gig went badly. Right. I couldn't deal with that anxiety, and because I was pregnant, I wasn't allowed to drink and take over-the-counter codeine, which is what I'd normally do. So I found it really difficult. I had to stop doing it.
Yeah, you've got to stop caring and care and still care.
I mean,
you got to, but I just think what you're doing is what you've done and what you're carrying on doing is incredible. All these different things are. So your last show was the one about the being 17?
Yes, it was. I just remembered there's a write-up of what I think it's Karaoke Circus in The Guardian, and James Kettle had written, "She clearly doesn't care about her career." A lovely way of putting it.
I think out of everyone I know, you take it quite personally and get quite cross about people, don't you? I think you're quite, you're angry. And lots of comedians are bitter, and I don't think you're bitter, but you're cross. But you're cross about, and I understand it because I've created lots of things, and I've done lots of Edinburgh extravaganza things, plays and things that are bigger that have not done well.
Do you know, I'm less cross now. I think when I was younger, I would get really like, why isn't anybody recognising my genius? Like Albert Einstein used to do when he was in his post office. I used to get really angry about it. And now I sort of, it's difficult because I remember once being on a train with Bridget Christie and saying to her, I'm motivated neither by money nor wanting to make people laugh, which means I'm in a really bad job. But I get like I think the thing that's weird is when you look at stand-up, and I don't know if you get this as well, you can see that obviously if you are hugely successful and you really work at it and you find the right sort of material, you could earn an incredible amount of money. You could be like properly insanely rich if you do it properly. And part of me always thinks, can I do that? Am I good enough to do that? But I don't really want to because it's not who I want to be. But there's part of me that's like, maybe I should give it a go. Whenever I try and give it a go, whenever I try and be that. I remember once my manager, when I was with the management that you are currently with, when I was with them, I remember my manager saying to me, maybe if you just try being a little bit more like Russell Kane. So, just walk out on stage, people think you're really grumpy, just cheer up a bit. And so I do wonder if I... But I don't think I am. I don't think I've got it in me. I'm not a light entertainer.
No, but both Bridget and Stuart are in the position where they're making, presumably, a huge amount of money performing to loads of people every night. And they're both, Bridget's a very good example of someone who was doing, I think you're very similar. I saw you both first probably in the caves in the Gilded Balloon.
Yeah, we were in the caves.
And doing really weird stuff. I mean, her stuff's like less weird, but it's still no less comedically interesting.
Well, I think but she started off being more weird.
She was weird and she's got less weird. But
what's the thing that was a real turning point for me in terms of what I do now? I'm mainly a writer, to be honest, now. In 2012, both me and Bridget took shows up to the Fringe about feminism and misogyny. Hers was War Donkey, mine was Speakeasy, and my show discussed all of the different weird jobs I've had and the sexism that I faced. This is in 2012, and Bridget's was about women in other countries and how they face misogyny. And we both got like loads of 2-star reviews going, it's just a woman talking about being a woman on stage. Can you not just do universal subjects like penises and things like that? You know the sort of material that we can all relate to, like spunking over a prostitute. Can't you do that sort of thing? We've both got these sorts of reviews basically slamming us for doing material that was quite female-centric. Yeah. And I remember bumping into Bridget in the street saying, I'm getting awful reviews, and she was like, I'm getting awful reviews as well. And that's when I said I can't do it anymore. Like, if I can't go out on stage and be a woman and talk about being a woman, if I have to pretend that I am some asexual being for an audience and a bunch of reviewers to like me, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I can't be who I want to be. And Bridget said, do you know what? I'm going to do even more next year. I'm going to do like a more feminist show. That's even more, even if it ruins my career. And I was like, well, good luck with that, mate. And she won the Perrier, and I stopped doing it.
But that's what the whole business is like, And there's these decisions you make, and some of them are right and some of them are wrong, and and someone gets picked up and someone doesn't get picked up. I mean, there was a lot of people doing brilliant shows about feminist shows around that time. Yeah. And Bridget was the one that kind of captured the public mood maybe the most. But there's a lot of luck involved in that. But what's I think what is admirable and better is you're just you're carrying on and doing all these different things, and that ultimately, I think, when you get to the end, you would, of your life, and you look back, you go, I'm glad I did that crazy robot nun, Elton John thing. I'm glad I did that. That existed. I know you will be, but rather than going, I'd played the Apollo and 5,000 people came and laughed about my jokes about, biscuits. I mean, whatever.
All I really want is the bronze statue that looks like me in the middle of Fareham shopping centre.
Okay,
that's all I want.
That'd be fun.
I remember, like, at the age of 13.
You haven't even got any connection to Fareham. Just that's what I wanted to be.
When I was 13, telling my religious studies teacher that all I ever wanted was a beautiful statue. I don't think it's asking a lot.
As long as that's happened, at the end, you can be okay. Yeah. I tell you what, if it hasn't happened, when you die, if I'm still alive, which is quite unlikely, I'll cover you in bronze and stick you up in Fareham.
That's an easy solution, right? They could just dip me in something.
And then it'll just be your withered old corpse. That's good. It'll be good. You wrote this show, which I didn't see, about being 17.
Yeah.
But I've read that you wrote to 4 famous people in 1996.
I did.
And 2 of them you don't mention in the show.
Yeah.
Rob Newman and Stuart Lee.
Yeah.
And who were the Why didn't you write to me? And who else did you write to?
I don't know why I didn't write to you. I remember going to see you. I think I saw, because this is very exciting for me because I was a big Fist of Fun fan. Loved it. In fact, there was a really lovely article that Stu wrote after Marky Smith died about being a Fall fan, and about how the Fall introduces you to other bands, and that's what happened to me. Like, I got into the Fall listening to your radio show. It wasn't anything to do with you, obviously. Listening to your radio show, and that's when I think I bought my first Fall album when I was 16 because I loved Fist of Fun. Yeah. Well, I think it was the radio show before you had your TV show, and that got me into so much other music. And it is like the Fall really are an education in music, and so you can sort of plot the lineage of your musical taste through that. And so it was really interesting to see that it started from you two. Yeah. And I think it's because I wrote to Stuart Lee and Rob Newman and Gary Barlow and Brett Anderson. These were I know what a collection. But as I say in my show, I had a fanzine. You remember fanzines? I
do remember fanzines.
You used to have a fanzine. I had a fanzine that I wrote when I was 16, 17, and we'd have interviews with people. And because no one in a band would ever write back, because they were all too snooty. But all the comedians loved it. Yeah. If you wrote to a comedian saying, "Can I ask you some questions?" they'd be like, "Yeah, sure." And so I remember writing to Rob Newman and Stuart Lee just with a list of questions. I remember I've found it. I can't even remember, most of the questions I asked you were really pointless, but I remember one was who would you prefer, who is a better captain, Kirk or Picard?
Right.
And he said Picard is a humanist genius.
Yes.
And he said that Kirk was a bully. Yeah. I do remember that. So I wrote to those two, but when I wrote to Gary Barlow, it was hate mail.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So
did he respond?
He didn't reply. Well, so I didn't actually do it, but what because I mentioned this, I thought it'd be amazing. Gary Barlow really loves chocolate oranges, as we all know. So what I did was I wrote on a little tiny piece of paper, "Gary Barlow, you are a prick." And I put it in the middle bit, the middle bit of a chocolate orange where the stem is.
Yeah.
I took the stem out of the chocolate orange and put this little bit of paper in it and wrapped it up. But I say in the show I sent it to him, but I never actually sent it to him. But I did do it, and then I thought, this is really mental. Should not be doing this. But I did genuinely send Brett Anderson a bra. Never sent anybody else a bra. Don't get jealous.
Why did you send him a bra?
Because I loved him. I thought
he sent what it was like your own bra. I thought it was like a bra for him. I think this might help with your boob problem, Brett.
It wasn't even my bra. Okay. I'd gone out and bought it because, when you're young, bras are very expensive. So I didn't want to send Brett Anderson my own bra because they cost... I was like a 34F. And so my bras cost 20 quid from Bravissimo. They were really expensive. So I went to the market and bought a bra. But I bought a grey sports bra, thinking that would be sexy, which it wasn't. And so I sent him this grey... And he didn't reply anyway. He didn't reply.
He was too busy wanking into that bra. So didn't have time. When I did a gig in... where was I? It was Northampton a couple of years ago, and Shane from Westlife was on in the big venue, and I was next door, and there was a bra. As I came out into my merch, there was a bra just on the steps outside. So it's like someone had shot their bolt a bit early or late. You throw it in on the stage. You wouldn't wait. I'll put it on the steps so that he can get it on his way out.
Are bras sexy without breasts in them?
I don't think so. I mean, if you were 13-year-old boy and a girl sent me a bra, that would be sexy.
But they're not. I totally misjudged it.
I think.
What's the weirdest thing you've been sent?
We did get some. We sort of requested people to send in stuff. Because we did the gallery on Fist Fun, so we got a lot of strange...
I got a picture on the gallery.
Did you?
Yeah.
Which one was yours?
I got a dog with Marky Smith's head on it.
Okay, well, that was bound to get on.
Yeah, well, of course, wasn't it? I mean, I knew my audience.
The one I remember, just because last week we were talking about Brian May, was Brian May made out of... someone had done Brian May made out of licorice and sweets, which would make John Robbins furious, because it was all about his hair being ridiculous, wasn't it?
That's nice.
Doing it in licorice form. But I'm sure we get some...
Since you've got old, what is the best thing anybody sent you?
Well, that's it. It all dries up. Everything dries up. This is a weird thing and a nasty thing.
Yeah.
I wrote a blog about cycling and getting wet on my bicycle, and somebody sent a pair of waterproof trousers to my home address.
Oh, that is weird.
Yeah. So and no note and no, just that's. And so that's like a little bit going, I know where you... They didn't know, they put like 2 numbers on, they put the next door on mine, so they knew where I lived roughly, and it got to me because it had my name on it. And it's horrible. I just threw them in the bin.
Do you think it was Stuart Goldsmith who said them to you?
But he knows where I live. He knows exactly.
He knows the actual number.
Him and Nish Kumar lived right behind me, so they could have just thrown it over the fence like they did with all those eggs. Or just chat in my front garden like they did as well.
I sort of admire that, though. I feel a bit... Like, as a woman, you get, like, hate mail. We get, like, abuse on Twitter.
Yeah.
Part of me's like, oh, I need to make the effort to find out where I live and write it in blood.
Don't say that. But, you know, like, as a comedian, it's not... It's just annoying that someone thinks... It's just... Because it's someone saying... You know, it's a sort of message there, isn't it? It's a message of power. It's just annoying. But, you know, as a comedian... People know where you are. You don't need to have our address together. We say, "Hey, I'm going to be at the Leicester Square Theatre at 7:30." Oh, great! Thanks for the feces. It's sort of, it is interesting. I think a lot of comedians were obsessive about something, whether it's musicians. I was obsessed about comedians. I didn't hate music. I wasn't interested in music. I was interested in comedy. But a lot of comedians do seem to be like obsessive about musical
so the
acts.
Sport or music and then the really famous comedians don't like anything. They don't have any interest. I mean, I was growing up, I loved music. I was like really, really into my music. But I also really loved my comedy. I've said this, I think I might have mentioned it on another podcast, but the first thing I ever went to see Cannon and Ball when I was 9 years old. I loved them so much. I loved the film The Boys in Blue, which I watched again recently and is not a good film. I know that those two can't act, but they've got everybody else in it can't act either. The key to being good in something is get everybody who's better than you around you. But I was so obsessed with Cannon and Ball, and my parents have zero interest in what I do for a living. They've never been to see anything I've ever done, ever. They've only visited London now I've had a baby. I have issues, we don't have to get into it. But so they've never, but the one thing they did, they knew I loved Cannon and Ball. So when I was 9, they took me to Butlin to see Cannon and Ball. And it was amazing, and it was really, I remember it was a Thursday evening, and my mum said, if you could see anything at the weekend, what would it be? And I went, not Cannon and Ball. My mum went, yeah, Cannon and Ball. Took me to Bognor. Yeah. It was brilliant. I got some Rock on Tommy braces and everything.
Honestly, when their first series came out, I was maybe, I don't know, I feel like I was 10, but maybe I was a bit older than that. But it was genuinely, I remember me and my sister just pissing ourselves with it. It was amazing.
They have no material. It's all stage presence. Yeah. They're brilliant.
Yeah. And Rick Mail was in a sketch with, have you seen the sketch?
Yeah,
with Rick
the sketch,
Mail?
in the shop. Yeah. That shop sketch.
Yeah. You met Debbie McGee the other day.
I didn't meet her.
How didn't you?
No.
You fell in love with her, though.
I fell in love with her. My mum made me go to Strictly Come Dancing live with her on Saturday. And bearing in mind, I've got a 13-week-old baby. We got to this fucking arena 2 hours early. And I was so grumpy. I sat on a piece of concrete going, could have been in bed. I was really annoyed. And so I got really quite pissed. And so I was like, oh, these dancing cunts. But I didn't say that to my mum, obviously. I was like, mum was going, oh, they're amazing, aren't they? Yeah, they're really good. And everybody was fine, they were all right. But Debbie McGee's amazing. She was properly amazing. And some of them get a bit emotional about what they're doing, and some of them are like, oh, thank you so much for voting for us. And Debbie McGee's just like, I'm having a great time. You think she's 60 years old. I mean, she does
You do impressions of David Bowie, Chris Marshall, and Adrian Chiles. Go. No. Do them all being in a pub and having a conversation.
I didn't know. I can't even remember. I did in my 2009, I had a show. I had an acting telephone, and I did Chris Marshall. I have no idea what I did.
Chris Marshall?
I don't know. I can't even remember what I did. Cannot remember. And the David Bowie, I did some really obscure David Bowie references that no one ever got and everybody thought was shit. And then for Adrian Chiles, I did a man really hating plain crisps. So he was like, the joke where he was like, oh, I mean, because it was about, Gary Lineker also hosted. Gary Lineker hosted Match of the Day. Adrian Chiles hosted Match of the Day too.
Okay.
And I set up this idea of a rivalry between. It was very complicated. The backstory was worthy of at least 3 episodes of a Netflix series. And he would be. He hated plain flavoured crisps.
Right.
I just pretended to be sick. It was all right.
It's all right.
No one liked. If I'd been a bloke, they'd have loved it. It's a woman.
I saw Adrian Chiles in Cafe Nero in Hammersmith once, and
Really?
he had the same computer as me. I said, "How are you getting on with it?" He said, "All right."
Who's the most famous person you've spoken to in London? Do you still get excited when you see famous people?
Yeah, of course. Who have I spoken? I don't know, but I'm too shy to speak to people. I don't know why I spoke to Adrian Chiles. Yeah. It's just because he had a Sony. He had the little Sony Vaio. It was nice. Must have been a long time ago because I haven't I've had Macs for so long now. It was back in the day when Adrian Chiles was still famous.
No one.
They will, they won't. They was going on. Time passes by quickly, doesn't it? I don't know. Who do I did see some. I keep forgetting. I saw some people this week, I think. But, I'm too old to remember now.
You're trying to function on about 4 hours sleep.
Yeah, I've got a bug, and I looked after my son last. It's nice when they sleep in bed with you, but then I'm always worried I'll roll over and crush them to death.
I can't do that. Yeah, I'm genuinely worried that.
Yeah, but then
some sleep.
It would shut them up, wouldn't it? So lovely.
My friend was saying to me, she said, she was saying, when they sleep through the night, it's amazing. And what will happen is you'll wake up and they won't have woken you up and you'll think, are they dead? And if they are dead, it's going to be a really hard day, so I should definitely stay in bed a little bit longer. The police will come round. I'm going to need all my strength.
But I can't do it. I've had exactly that, but I have to get up because what if they have only just died and you could get them back alive again in time? So you can't.
So
you've got to spring out of bed, make sure, and then they go, "Why you woke me up?" My daughter was sick all over the bed the other day. It was great. She just threw up. It's nice when it's your turn, and then all day she was going, "I was sick on the bed." What fun it is having kids, eh? You have used Sting's toilet.
I have used Sting's toilet.
Tell me about Sting's toilet.
Sting's toilet's really weird. So I was in a play called Julius Caesar by Shakespeare.
But that's all men in that. You couldn't be in that.
I was in the all-female production. I was in the original all-female production, not in the version that has been filmed where we all got sacked and some other people did it.
Really?
I was in the original all-female Julius Caesar, yeah. And it was on at the Donmar. Actually, I met Patrick Stewart. It was really exciting. Yeah. Dame Harriet Walter introduced me. I said, I love Patrick Stewart. Can I meet Patrick Stewart? She said, yeah. And so he was being all like regal and Shakespearean around everybody. And then she said, this is Danielle. She really loves Star Trek. And he just fucked off. He wasn't interested at all. So I was in a production of Julius Caesar, which transferred to New York. And that was quite exciting, being in a play. And it's in Brooklyn. People go, you're in Broadway. But no, it was in Brooklyn. And Sting came to see it and had a party at his house for all of us. And some other, I think Trudy Styler was also doing The Seagull at the same time, his wife. Okay. And so she'd had this party for all of the Brits on Broadway and in Brooklyn. And so it was us and the production of The Seagull and Twelfth Night as well. So Mark Rylance didn't go to the party, but Stephen Fry did. And he said to me, who do you play? And I said, I play Lepidus. And he started quoting the entire bit. And I went, I've only got 4 lines, mate, I won't know. And so... and I needed to use the toilet. Yeah. And I went into Sting's toilet, and everybody was going to me, you have to... Sting's toilet's amazing. You have to use Sting's toilet. I was like, this must be a really great... like a Japanese toilet or something. Maybe it talks. And I went into Sting's toilet, and the whole toilet... the ceiling and the walls and the floor and the sink and the toilet itself were all bright red. Everything was red, completely red. And it was the most frightening toilet I've ever been in. It was like going to the toilet in The Shining. Yeah. It was so weird. And everybody's going, it's amazing, it's a design masterpiece. And I was like, I don't understand why you would have a red toilet unless your arsehole bled a lot. I don't get it. And the toilet paper was red as well. That was the weird thing, so the toilet paper was also red, and it was all very...
How can you tell when you're done?
Well, exactly. Just all looks the same, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and I have a photo on my phone of me in Sting's toilet going... It was really weird. Wow. But I feel bad discussing it because he is a real man who let me into his real toilet. I think
now here you are.
I know. I don't want to... I feel like he let me into his house. I feel really bad discussing his toilet. What if he heard about the podcast?
He does listen to it. He always emails me after every show and lets me know how it's gone. He'll be fuming.
But how would you feel if you had a party?
Know Rachel Paris from the MASH report.
Yeah.
Very successful now. She's been on the podcast.
Yeah.
She's now viral now. It's all down to me. She came to my house because she was doing a gig with my wife.
Yeah.
And she used my toilet. Yeah. And she texted her brother and said, "I'm on Richard Herring's toilet." So I know exactly how it feels. I feel violated.
Yeah. It's
how dare
personal.
you come into my toilet and text people about it? And discuss what it's like just because it's all brown. It wasn't when it started. But
my partner will not... He hates toilet brushes. He won't have a toilet brush.
Right.
He thinks they're disgusting and weird. Why would you want a brush full of poo in your... next to your toilet?
Yeah, the problem with that, though...
Yeah, the toilet gets dirty. And then he was like, "Oh, no, it's fine. I'll clean the toilet. We don't need a toilet brush. I'll clean it with my hands." Never has done. The toilet's horrible.
Well, but now you've got a kid with him. You're stuck with him.
Yeah, I know.
That's what happens.
And also he's got more money than me. So. Might as well.
Why is he Scottish?
He's half Scottish.
Is he?
He's a Buchanan. They had a family castle at one point. Yeah. I know.
Well, he's good looking as well.
He is good looking, isn't he?
He's like posh, but he's also good looking, so it's the best of both worlds.
Well, he's only half posh, so his mum's posh, but his dad isn't posh.
Okay, his dad's from York, is he?
His dad's from... I think his dad's from South Shields, and they moved to York. But their family home was on Hope Street in St Andrews, which is where Andrew and Katie lived. Okay. That's how posh they are.
Andrew and Katie.
Oh, no, Andrew and Katie. St Andrew, William and Katie.
Yeah, be good. Prince Andrew, that's the kind of thing he would do. Have a secret life with his nephew's wife. Couple of those kids. I mean, that's bad, isn't it? Have a couple of those kids. No, that's fine. It's all right. It's all right. No, it'll be okay because she's not related to him.
No, she's fine. No.
That's fine. That's Prince Andrew wouldn't be interested in that because that's acceptable. And she's what's the point?
You don't want a knighthood.
Just beep it. Just beep it. So you were also... Well, your first gig is interesting because you were... Have I not talked about this? You were an economic researcher at the South Korean embassy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about all the news. You know about economics and you know about South Korea, North Korea. Let's go.
So when I worked there in 2000, I think I got the job in 2003. I worked there 2003, 2004. And even then, they were not that... They didn't hate North Korea in the way I thought they would.
Right.
They were very much like, our poor misguided brothers. That was their attitude. So it was never a thing of, we hate North Korea. Right. In the embassy. I can't speak for all Koreans. They call themselves... You're not allowed to call them South Koreans. That's not what they... Yeah. It's like the Republic of Korea and the Democratic People's... It's very... You're not allowed to use North and South. No. But they were very much like, we can't wait for the day when we can all do curling together or whatever it is. Whatever it is, let's put them
when
back
we
together.
Can play women's ice hockey as a one united nation, then we'll all be happy again.
Then we'll all be happy. So they were pretty chilled about it.
How did you get that job as working as had you done economics?
No, I hadn't done economics, didn't know any Korean, didn't know any Korean people, hadn't ever been to North Korea or South Korea. No. It was advertised in The Guardian for an economic researcher and they just wanted someone with a degree. And when I went for the job interview, everybody else was mental, so he just gave it me.
So if you'd stayed in that job and not... So you did comedy... while you were working there?
Yeah, I started doing comedy while I was working there. Yeah. Partly because when you work in an embassy, they don't have to give you the same work laws. The same work laws don't apply.
Right.
So they didn't have to give me 20 days paid holiday, for example, and they didn't have to, like, they wouldn't have had to have given me maternity pay if I'd have got pregnant or sickness or anything like that. So in my first year, I got 9 days holiday, and I was like, fuck this. It's ridiculous. And when I left, I only worked there for about, I think it was like less than 18 months. And when I left, the head of admin sat me down and told me what a terrible person I was and how I had an awful attitude. I know, I was fine.
So your first gig was it Russell Brand's gig, or Russell Brand was on?
He was comparing it. It was downstairs at the King's Head.
All right.
Yeah, that was all right.
Yeah.
It was an all right gig.
And you did all right?
I think when I first started, I had some really interesting material, and I was a terrible, terrible performer, and I wasn't really... So I got loads and loads of heat when I... This is the thing, if anybody is like a new comic and they talk about going to Edinburgh... A friend of mine wants to go to Edinburgh, and she hasn't even done stand-up yet. She's an actor, and she's like, I'm going to do an hour of stand-up in Edinburgh. What do you reckon? I was like, you haven't got any material yet. And I was saying, you don't burn your first... Like, because the opportunity you get when you first hit the scene is... Like, you'll never get that back again. So the later you can do that, the better you'll be. And I had got loads of heat when I first started, and I was nowhere near good enough to make it work. Like, I just wasn't good enough to capitalise on it. And it's not even a regret, because it's how things worked out. And I didn't get into comedy. I didn't even start doing comedy because I thought it would be a career. It was just a thing that I did. Like, I did some gigs. I loved comedy. Yeah. I did some gigs. And for some reason, it became my job. It was never a career plan. So when I first started, like, I'd been doing it about 8 months when I was runner-up in the BBC New Comedy Awards, and there was no sort of plan to be a comedian. And I was a bit, I don't know, I didn't have a manager or an agent or anything like that, and I didn't know what I was doing. And so I got all this traction, and the Russell Brand thing was part of that. Like, he got me to go and do his gig at the Enterprise in Chalk Farm, and I'd do that, and that's where I met Trevor Locke and Lee Francis and all these, like, brilliant comedians. And I'd be like, what am I doing here? But it's because I had weird material, and I sometimes feel a bit sad that I've lost that attitude of, this isn't even my job, so it doesn't matter what I do. I feel sad that sometimes you lose that, especially when you go and do a gig and, you know, the promoter's going, well, I'm taking a chance on you because you're a lady. You think, I have to do that slightly bog standard 20 minutes rather than the 20 minutes that I know might not appeal to everybody, but is the 20 minutes that is me as a comic.
Yeah. Maybe. I'm surprised. No, I was surprised when I read that, because I came back to do stand-up about 2004, 2005. Yeah. And I remember doing gigs with you, and I thought you were, you know, really established and been going for ages at that point. So I was surprised when, you know, you were very good, I think, straight off the bat then.
Well,
because I thought you must have been going for 4 or 5 years.
No, I was. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happened. It's all about.
But I think, you know, but you just got to do what you think's good. I generally think the minute you start, when I came back to stand up, I'd done that. The first time I'd done stand up, I'd really vacillated and gone, should I do what I want, or should I do what the club will book me for?
Yeah.
And I'd do something in between, and it was usually terrible.
Work, yeah.
You know, sometimes it worked, sometimes it really wouldn't. But it'll be, you know, just pick one, I think, and the one you should pick is to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And so when I came back to do stand-up, I just went, fuck it, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and did, you know, stuff that annoyed people on purpose for ages.
But I remember doing a gig in Edinburgh in 2006, and a comic who is quite famous, so I won't name them, said to me afterwards, you will never smash the roof off a gig with that material. And I was like, well, this is my set. You know, it wasn't, you know, it was really... And you sort of think, well, should I change it then? Should I do something else? Should I do something more accessible? I remember doing, I did like just a 10-minute slot about 5 years ago with 2 comics that had really good fringe runs. And I was like, oh, this will be a really good gig because they're both quite weird. And when I did this club gig, I think it was the Glee or something, and the material they were doing was really quite conventional. Yeah. And I was like, are you meant to have a different set? And that's the other thing that I've been going for like 10 years, and I didn't realise you're meant to have your Edinburgh set, and then you have the set that earns you money. It never occurred to me that you would have these different... Because I'm an artist. So.
Well, but then that's better. Also, anyone who talks about smashing the roof off a gig is a cunt, and you can forget about it, because you might do that, but it's not. That's, you know, that sort of says what they're aiming for, and it's a different thing. You know, it's not.
You just
it's just aiming about
silence.
It's aiming about the ego. That's an ego thing. Of going, I did this, I did that. You know, you might make an audience really laugh, and you might, but also a good gig, you're not going to smash the roof off. You're going to make people have an amazing time all the way through.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get to a point where it explodes and no one can follow it.
I don't think he meant literally.
In that case,
he wasn't a member of ISIS.
I say he, of course, it could have been a woman.
It could have been, obviously.
Talking in that way.
Obviously wasn't a woman.
Terrific. Well, look, I haven't asked you any emergency questions again. People will be very disappointed, but screw those people. I'm better than that. I'm not just a guy who gofasterstripe.com buy this sex. I'm not going to ask you the ham hand.
What was the talc one? Would you rather have a tip full of talc? What was it? The talc
I'm not going to do that.
What was the talc one?
Get to the 2018, Danielle. We're not living back in 2017 anymore. We're not living in December 2017. This is February 2018 now. What is the sexiest TV puppet? I have asked that before. What is the sexiest TV puppet?
Oucho.
What's that from?
Ed and Oucho. What would you want me to say? Like Muffin the Mule, Grandad?
I want to say what you believe. I'm not.
Do you think it's Muffin the Mule?
I don't know what Oucho is.
You know who Oucho is, right? They're all really old. I'm young and I'm down with the cool. I know who Rihanna is and everything.
I'm gonna have to look.
Oucho's a cactus.
That's not sexy.
It is. Think of the. Do you not know the pleasure pain thing? Have you?
No. Ouchie or Oucho?
Oucho.
Ouchie.
I'd have thought of all of the comics I know, you'd be the one most into autoerotic asphyxiation.
I'm very vanilla. It's like a cactus with hair on
cactus.
it. That.
Yeah, sexy cactus.
Has that slightly turned you on seeing that picture?
A little bit. I mean, look at those guns.
Wouldn't it be prickly? Oh, it was nasty.
I mean, it's a puppet though.
Okay.
So it's just like a ribbed penis.
Has he got a badge of himself? Is he wearing a badge of himself?
He is, yeah. You do that though.
I like his open mouth. I have to say that is appealing to me.
Sexiest puppet.
Okay, good. I've discovered a new puppet. That's something I didn't think I would do tonight. All right, we'll go for one more. There was some. You worked with John Oliver on the. I want to keep calling it the Mash Report, but it's the Milk Run.
And the Milk Run, yeah.
Yeah.
He's great, isn't he?
He is great.
Are you jealous?
I'm not jealous of him.
Are you not?
No.
I'm jealous of him.
Are you? I think he's. But I think with all the, I'm not. I don't really, despite everything that this podcast would make you think.
Yeah.
I think any of the people, like John and Stuart,
Yeah.
have taken their individual journey and stuck with it and made it really fucking work. And I think that, as really as any comedian, that should make you go, there's hope. There's hope that.
Yeah.
And when you look at John, I would never have pegged him out as being. And I loved him, but I would never have thought, there's a guy who's going to go to America and become the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
But, then someone took a chance on him and then gave him a chance to do what he does well. And it's amazing. And, I couldn't ever do anything like that.
Absolutely. I now, when I look at John Oliver, I don't think of it as being the John Oliver that I know.
Right.
If you see what I mean? Like, you did gigs with John Oliver, 14 years ago, and that's very different from... He's sort of so brilliant. I can't really equate the two.
Yeah. Good. Good. I'll ask you, let's see what the emergency question generator throws up. How do you spell diarrhea?
Is that really what you want people asking each other over the Christmas dinner table?
It's Diarrhoea. I still don't believe it.
No.
Okay, sorry, cut that out, Ben. There's nothing else been cut out of this show.
There's nothing left in the podcast.
Can you believe you read this far? Or are you just
How much did you charge for this book?
Like a lot of money. One more go, Ben. We'll see if we'll get there. This book's good. This book has been nominated for a Chortle Award.
Has it?
It's so embarrassing. I wrote this in about 2 days. It's up against all these brilliant... I've read all the other books. They're all brilliant. I would say vote for it. It's too late, but I'd love to beat them all just because it would be so funny. Robert Webb's heartbreaking tale of the death of everything.
You're up against...
Yeah. Imagine if that beats him, how annoyed he'll be. and just spelled diarrhea. I'm just going to read out the worst questions from it. It's James Acaster's book. It's the funniest book I've read in like 20 years. Adam Kay's book. We had Adam Kay on the other week. Yeah, and his book is amazing.
Yeah.
I want to go on, and I'm just going to accept the award. What is the strangest thing you've ever had up your anal canal? That is what. That beat you, Robert Webb. I've lost it. I've fucking lost it. I thought you would lose it because you're only 13 weeks into being a mother.
Yeah, 13 weeks and nearly died.
Yeah.
Did you nearly die having your baby?
Well, it was very uncomfortable on the chairs. I tried to sleep on the chairs and it was impossible.
Oh, it must have been
I know,
hard.
but Kate had a bed. She was lying all the way.
No,
the little thing just came out like that. It was like pop.
Exactly like my partner, my boyfriend. He was like, "Oh, this bed's so uncomfortable." It's like, "Oh no, I just..." And 50 hours. I was 50 hours.
I know, but I've got to drive her home the next day. I've got to be awake and alert to look after them all. Think of the dads. They could just have a chair that goes back a bit so you could go, oh. They could just have these chairs I could sleep on.
The legs come out on the chairs. I nearly bled to death on the operating table when I had my C-section. And the worst thing is, because you're awake, you can hear them talking about how you're bleeding to death. They don't even do a code, like, on the tube. You think they'd have a code, wouldn't they?
Dr. Blood is coming out of the vagina a bit too quickly.
Can Mr. Gauze come to the uterus area? None of that. Yeah.
It's a terrifying thing, and that's an awe-inspiring, terrible thing to go through.
Yeah, I've had worse gigs.
Yeah.
Honestly, my midwife said, "Do you want me to get you any trauma counselling?" Because it was like I say, 50 hours, nearly bled to death, went into shock. "Do you want me to get you trauma counselling?" And I was like, I honestly feel worse about the time I got booed off at the Comedy Cafe. I really do. It was a worse experience. That's the great thing about being a stand-up comedian.
And was there a part of your brain going, I can write a show about this. This is going to be a great routine. If I survive this, if we both survive this, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, when I stopped dry heaving. Yeah. No, I didn't actually, because I thought, I'll just get told off by the list for writing about being a woman. The time I nearly died is not as exciting as, "Oh, my nan," with some breakbeats. I went to see a show at the Fringe, and it was just like 50 minutes of bog standard stand-up, white guy stand-up, and then, "But my nan's dead," and then breakbeats over the top of it as well. Breakbeats over the top of me bleeding to death on a table. Maybe, as the coda to the show.
I think you should do it. I think it would work.
Never mention it. And then just a picture of my rancid uterus being suctioned clean.
Luckily, I think Ben probably stopped recording this about 2 hours ago. We'll have got the intro. We'll have got like one story in the middle, I think was okay. You worked with that girl off Call the Midwife?
Yeah.
She was nice, wasn't she?
She was nice.
That's it. That's going to be it. That's going to be the podcast. What was she like in real life?
She is really lovely.
Yeah, she did seem lovely.
But she did work with me before she got famous, so yeah.
Well, I think you made her famous.
I genuinely did. She owes me. I went to a wedding. The bottles of Heineken were £8.
At a wedding?
Yeah. I know. Fuck that, right?
Yeah.
They got divorced, it's fine.
They got divorced because the whole thing was a scam to make money off the Heineken. Got those for £1 at the supermarket, £7 each, bang. Split that, let's go. No idea how Ben's going to get through this. He's got a couple of weeks to put it together, and Chris Evans got that one, of course, as well, does the video. So, I've got to go to Hertfordshire now, so thanks for... I've got to go catch my train, so thank you for coming in. Thank you, Danielle Ward! Trevor and Simon next week, and come and see us again next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye. How'd you like them sky potatoes?